Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Merry Christmas to all who celebrate today and tomorrow. I know the chat's already filling up here. Probably thinking, what in the world are you doing a stream on Christmas Eve? I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm looking around and nobody else is doing any Packers content. So I'm like, I got to have my Packers fix for today, whether it's Christmas Eve or not. So hopefully everybody's having an awesome morning with family and getting ready for the festivities. What we're going to dive into today, we've got an update on the Jordan Love injury. Okay, and Wendell Ferreira over on Twitter put a tweet out with an article and kind of not really gave us a definitive answer, but you can see they're trending in a good direction. We'll talk about what all that means with Jordan Love. Also, we've got the full Packers Ravens injury report we'll cover, as they're a little banged up as well. Not quite as much as the Packers, but some key players there that we'll talk about. And then if we have time, we're going to dive in on the backside of the show like we did yesterday with the offense. We're going to show you the top defensive players of 2025 for the Green Bay Packers, the players according to PFF that have played really, really well. And then we'll kind of mix and match in some contract talk as well, like we did yesterday, kind of projecting the future for the Packers defense. But before we do that, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you know anytime we do go live. With that being said, man, let's waste no time. Let's jump into it. And I'm just going to put this the link to this article up on the screen. You guys make sure you go give it a check, and obviously make sure you're following Wendell Ferreira as well. One of the better follows on Twitter here in terms of Packers content, and make sure you check out all of his pieces here moving forward. But I'm just going to kind of read it to you guys here off to the side and give you an idea of what we got going on with Jordan Love and the update here. Okay, so you guys know Jordan Love sustained the concussion. It was also, I think, mentioned yesterday on the official injury report that Jordan Love had a shoulder injury as well. So not only was it a concussion, but it was also the left shoulder. If you guys remember when the defender kind of put all his weight down on him, as he took him to the ground, which that's supposed to be a penalty as well. I don't know really what's happened with that penalty. I never really liked that penalty, to be honest with you. But if it's a penalty and it's in the rule book, call the damn thing, right? That's the part that frustrates me, is like, if you're not going to call holding, then tweak the rules to where we know, okay, they're not going to call holding as much as we have in the past. Same thing with landing on a quarterback, things like that. But nonetheless, here is what the article says from Wendell Ferreira. As we write this article, it's Wednesday. So obviously this was yesterday, right? Or actually this morning, right? What is today? Yeah, today. Okay, cool. It's Wednesday. The Green Bay Packers played the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday. So the first practice of the week happened on Tuesday, and the injury report had both Jordan Love with a concussion and Malik Willis with the shoulder limited at practice. But a subtle and important detail is a clear indication that the Packers are confident in the health of their quarterbacks with an S, right? It's great news. No quarterback workouts, all right? So the Packers have only 3 quarterbacks, the main 2 on the active roster, and Clayton Tune on the practice squad. If there are any real concern about the availability of both for Saturday's game, the team would likely brought in options to a workout to potentially add to the practice squad. Okay, so the fact that they didn't have any quarterbacks in working out for the Green Bay Packers is a pretty good sign that they feel confident both of these guys, or at least one, I would imagine, will be good to go, right? Here at A to Z Sports, he writes, so Wendell Ferreira writes, we discussed some options earlier this week, and that included quarterbacks that have already played under Matt LaFleur and know the system, like Tim Boyle, Taylor Elgersma. They would just have to be emergency options. If the Packers were not confident in their numbers at the position for this week, the faster they moved, the more a new quarterback would have time to go back to the playbook and learn the specific game plan for the Ravens game. All right. So again, if there was any concern there, they probably would have went outside of the room, went outside of the building, and tried to bring in someone who's familiar with the system and get them up to snuff, if you will, on the game plan for the Baltimore Ravens. Right. In terms of injury updates, Wendell goes on and says Jordan Love was able to practice at a limited capacity on Tuesday, which doesn't guarantee anything, but it's a great indication about the process. Usually, players who miss games with concussions aren't able to practice throughout the week. The fact that Love could be on the field at some capacity 4 days before the game is a positive sign. We've kind of talked about this a lot, right? Like if you've got a guy that's in concussion protocol, you're looking for them to be limited as soon as possible so they can potentially clear concussion protocol. We've seen in the past that if a player gets hurt, let's say he gets hurt on a Monday night game, right? And then you come out in the first or second practice, let's say the first practice report on Wednesday says he did not participate. You're really keyed in on Thursday to see, okay, is he limited Thursday? Nope, he did not participate. Oh, crap, right? And then maybe Friday, he's limited. Now it's kind of up in the air. Is he truly going to clear concussion protocol? But when the player gets back on the field and they practice at least in a limited fashion by the first day of practice, it's usually a good indicator they're going to clear concussion protocol, but not guaranteed, as Wendell Ferrer said, right? Meanwhile, backup quarterback Malik Willis was also limited due to a right shoulder injury he suffered on the final play of regulation against the Chicago Bears. Matt LaFleur said the backup isn't cleared yet, but Willis said in the locker room after practice that he would probably be able to play through the injury if Love can't go. So again, Matt LaFleur probably trying to throw a little bit of a smoke screen out there to the rest of the league, to the Baltimore Ravens, right? Like, yeah, we don't know if our backup's going to be ready. And then, of course, Malik goes in the locker room and says, yeah, I can probably play through this if Love ain't ready to go. So I think it's going to be one of those situations where he'll probably be active. Now, is there a chance that Clayton Tune could be active too? Yeah, I think that'd be a smart move this week, right? In case the shoulder does act up on Willis, God forbid, Jordan can't go, right? Then you obviously activate Clayton Tune. So, when you look at this, really what it comes down to is they feel good about both players, right? Jordan will probably clear concussion protocol, but if he doesn't, Malik Willis can play even though the shoulder's a little banged up. Regardless, Clayton Tune will probably be active, right? So again, if they had went and brung someone into the building, they would have been like, oh crap, we're going to have to go ahead and accelerate Clayton Tune to the starting quarterback, and this backup quarterback that hopefully would have had experience in Matt LaFleur's offense. We can kind of get him acclimated to the scheme, to the game plan specifically for the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday night. And now you've got your two quarterbacks, plus your emergency quarterbacks, which we learned were, if I remember correctly, it was Josh Jacobs and Jaden Reed, right? So, again, I think both quarterbacks, there's a good chance they'll be ready to go. And hopefully that's the case. Now, there's also a chance that maybe Jordan's ready to go, and then by the time the game gets here, they rule Malik Willis out because the shoulder flared up on him or something, right? In limited snaps at practice. If that's the case, Clayton Tune will be activated, and that'll be your true backup throughout the game. So, so he goes on to say if at least one of them is able to play on Saturday, Clayton Tune would be the third option on the team. It's possible that Tune gets the first elevation for game day to at least serve as the emergency quarterback, kind of like what we were just saying, right? He initially gets on the inactive list, but can play if the first two quarterbacks are ruled out during the game with injuries. For now, the Packers feel comfortable with what they have. So, again, I think this is great news for the Green Bay Packers. The fact that it sounds like both quarterbacks are trending in the right direction, right? So I think we'll have Jordan out there. I think that Malik will probably be in the fold there as well. And then also you'll have Clayton Tune just lying in the wait in case, like I said, God forbid something goes terribly wrong, right? Like if Jordan's left shoulder, if he gets hit and the left shoulder is bothering him, all right, cool, you pull him out. Malik Willis plays a drive or two. Dang it, he's not quite 100% there. All right, throw Clayton Tune out there. And now you got Malik Willis as your emergency backup that could potentially run that read option, that zone read defense, that RPR look, right? So that's probably the way that they will take this thing. Let's go to the chat, see what everybody's saying here. Jen Wright said Lamar versus Willis would be fun. Boy, it would. You talk about two dynamic quarterbacks, right? Kind of cut from the same cloth in terms of their speed. Lamar's one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league. People don't know this, but Malik Willis has been clocked over 20 mile an hour several times. So that's a dude that's got blazing speed as well. I think that would be a fun little matchup, although I think we would all agree, and you yourself included, I'm sure, Jen, want to see Jordan out there, right? Want to see him out there and healthy. Let's see. Your Sixer says, I think I heard Nick Wright and Chris Bassard say Love will be out the next two games, but I think that was before yesterday when Love practiced. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how Nick Wright always sticks his foot in his mouth? I've never seen anyone in sports media. And listen, this also includes Skip Bayless. This includes, in my opinion, Stephen A. Smith don't stick his foot in his mouth much. He's just very bolsterous, right? And you can tell he'll create opinions just to get clicks. But I've never seen anything that Nick Wright said that I'm like, man, this guy's really knowledgeable about the game of football. It just always comes off like somebody put a piece of paper in front of him and said, hey, try to convince the crowd that you believe this, right? So the fact that Nick said that makes me think Jordan Love is fully healthy, to be honest with you, if I'm being real here, right? Yeah, Sixers goes on saying, I was like, what the hell? What are they thinking? They're not thinking. I'll tell you what they're thinking. They're thinking, yeah, let's say something to get those Packer fans talking. And here we are, right? That's the way that works. So we got Darren in the chat. Good morning. Good news. Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it is good news. And again, there's no guarantee that both of these guys will be ready, but it's looking like they're both will be ready. That's the direction we're trending in. So if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about Jordan Love and Malik Willis, their injuries, and whether they'll be available for the Baltimore Ravens. Which direction would you take? Is there a chance that if Love isn't 100% with that left shoulder, would you sit him, play Malik, and then try to get Jordan completely healthy for Week 18 there against the Minnesota Vikings? As we all know, you know, the Lions game we're all going to be watching tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow's when that game's played. If the Lions lose, the Packers are in regardless, right? But we want to go on this little run here and try to win the North if the Bears were to crap the bed the last two games, right? How awesome would that be? First of all, there's a really good chance, like a 94% chance last I checked, that the Packers make the playoffs, which is great news. But how cool would it be if the Bears had an epic collapse and the Packers won the last two, the Bears lost the last two, we win the North, we host a playoff game, the Bears get beat out in the first round of the playoffs, and all is right in the world? Would that not be awesome? If we just snuck right up and took the North from them, that would just, it'd be great. So anyway, let us know in the comments what you think about Jordan Love's injury. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified anytime we go live here in the future. Appreciate y'all tuning in with us here on Christmas Eve. All right, let's move along to the next topic here, and that's really just the injury report in its entirety. Okay, I want to spend a few minutes kind of diving into this. I'm getting caught up. I was on the road pretty late last night, so I didn't get a chance to really dive into these. So we're just going to kind of do it in real time with the listeners, with the viewers. And if you guys would, everybody in the chat, smash that like button for me. We greatly appreciate it. Here is the injury report as it sits right now. Rob Domofsky tweeted out a mere 20 players on the Packers injury report. It's just wild. Every week we think it couldn't get worse, and it just seems like somebody else gets added. But here is the official injury report. All right, we're not going to talk about the full participation players, okay? Let's key in on the did not participate first, and then we'll comb through the limits, okay? We'll just go that route. So, did not participate was Quentin Bohanna, defensive lineman. He's ill, they said. So he's got an illness along with Bo Melton. So Bo Melton and Quentin Bohanna, they both have some kind of sickness that's been going around the locker room. So, will they be available? I don't know if they'll be active on game day or not. You hope Bo is. Bohanna is not that big of a deal, obviously, in my opinion. Now, unless you get someone else on the injury report at the defensive tackle position that's going to warrant you maybe trying to rush him along a little bit there. Other did not participates on this is Zach Tom with the back/knee. So again, when we first reported on Zach Tom, we were hearing 1 to 3 weeks was the injury, right? And, my opinion was hold him out till he's fully healthy. And if it comes down to you having to use Week 18 to try to lock up a playoff spot and he's, 90%, then put him out there. Now it's worth risking further injury in order to make the playoffs, right? And Zach Tom is a very, very key piece to this Packers team, obviously. So it looks like that's the direction they're going. Now, we'll keep an eye on that with Wednesday and Thursday's injury report because, again, Zach Tom may pop up tomorrow, be limited, then full participation Thursday, and we're off and running. That's great, right? But, again, the early indicator was that it was going to be 1 to 3 weeks for Zach Tom, 1 to 2 weeks for Evan Williams. We'll talk about Evan Williams here in a minute. So I would say Zach Tom's going to be out in this game. And you know what? I'm okay with Darian Kennard playing right tackle, to be honest with you. I'm totally cool with that. Or Jordan Morgan. I mean, that's probably the direction they'll go. You just don't want to put Zach Tom out there and hurt him even more. And then all of a sudden you don't have him for Week 18. And there's a chance you might not have him for Week 18 anyway, right? But this gives you the best shot by sitting him out. I hope they keep him out. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know in the comments how y'all feel about that. Christian Welch did not participate with the ankle, and that's the only did not participate, all right? So, again, just a recap. Quentin Bohanna, Bo Melton both have an illness they're dealing with. Zach Tom with the back/knee. He probably will not play, and Christian Welch probably will not play, I would imagine, with the game coming up here on Saturday. So those are the did not participate. Now let's shift gears to the limited, okay? Limited, Aaron Banks with a neck injury, okay? But like I said, practice it in a limited fashion. Josh Jacobs with the knee/ankle. So now it looks like he's got an ankle he's dealing with along with the knee. He's limited. We know how this is going to go. Josh Jacobs is probably going to go out there and play football. He's just a man bear like that. I made my opinion very vocal last week. I wish they would have shut him down for the Bears game and build a game plan around Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks and Savion Williams as your running backs. And which, by the way, how cool is that? How valuable is Savion Williams that he can play all these multiple positions, right? I mean, he can return kicks. He can play running back. We've seen him play a little F. I haven't seen him play X yet. It's F and a little bit of moving Z. And sometimes the water gets muddy between the F and the moving Z. But you're seeing a guy that's been pretty damn valuable, right? As a rookie, he hasn't played a whole lot of snaps, but you're seeing kind of a versatility there. And once he does get fully healthy, I think you're going to have a heck of a player. So, but with that being said, with the limiteds here with Josh Jacobs, I was hoping they would hold him out last week and let him get healthy for Week 18. They're obviously going in a different direction, and Josh Jacobs has kind of been pushing back on Coach LaFleur, and I blame the coaches for that. I don't blame Josh Jacobs. I've heard some people say Josh Jacobs needs to do what's best for the team and sit down until he's healthy. I agree, but players want to play. And when you're a leader like Josh Jacobs, it's the coaches and the trainer's responsibility to go, Josh, I'm sorry, dude. We're not letting you go out there. Let's let this thing heal up as best possible. Now, we're not behind the scenes. So maybe the injury report suggests it's not going to get better until he has surgery in the offseason or something. Maybe there's something like that going on. We don't know. When I say surgery, like maybe a scope or something, right? So that might be kind of why the coaches are like, yeah, let's just take this thing as far as we can go, right? That could be the case. But nonetheless, he was limited. Jordan Love, like we said, limited with the left shoulder / concussion. If you guys are watching this video back later, you can go to the previous video that we did, and that's where we kind of specifically talked Jordan Love and Malik Willis. So in case you're wondering why we're just breezing over that. Aaron Mosby with the ankle, limited. Sean Ryan, guard with the knee, limited. Of course, he's our starting center now, right? So that's kind of a big deal. We'll keep an eye on that. Jordan Riley, defensive tackle with an ankle, limited. Lucas Van Ness with a foot injury. He'll be limited, I think, for the rest of the season, to be honest with you guys. And then we've got Josh Whyle tied in with the concussion. Guys, getting him back this week is going to be great news. It's just like with Jordan and his concussion. Both of them are limited. That's a good sign, right? Last week, Josh Whyle, I think it was last week, it was just did not participate pretty much all week long, right? So we kind of knew, okay, he's not going to clear concussion protocol. So getting him back is going to be huge for the offense. I think he's played a key role in the limited snaps he's had. Also limited, this is the big news for me, Evan Williams. We talked about last week, 1 to 2 weeks was what we were hearing on the streets out here. And, some people wanted to put him out there. I said last week, sit him down. Him and Zach Thomas sit their butts down. They did that with both of them. Well, we've seen Evan Williams warming up in pregame before the Bears game, and he looked really good, right? I mean, he was cutting hard. Now, granted, he wasn't in pads and everything, but he was cutting hard, shifting fine, acceleration looked good. I think he's going to be good to go this week. Now, if it comes game time and they go, he's not quite there, hold his butt out. Again, I would love to win the North, but not at the detriment of going into the playoffs completely banged up, right? Because we've seen, I want to ask you guys a question. That Bears team running victory laps over beating the Packers and having to do it in the last 5 minutes and a recovered onside kick and 2 blown coverages and blah, 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 right? Like everything. I think we had a 90 or a 90. I think somebody said 99% chance. I think it was a 90% chance of winning that game. And the Bears came back and won it, right? Because everything kind of fell apart. Do you guys think that Evan Williams would have made enough of a difference to win that ball game? Because I do. Like when you look at, kind of some of the blown coverages and things, and I know it was key that blow the coverage, but at the same time, if Evan Williams is on the field, I think he's that big of a difference maker. I really do. I think we probably win that game if he plays. Now, I'm not saying they should have played, and you guys know I was in the opposite direction. I'm just simply saying anyone who seems to think that the Bears are the better team than the Packers, I just don't see it. I really don't. So with that being said, Evan Williams being limited is a good sign. So it's going to probably come down to a game time decision. If it's up to him, he'll probably go out there and play, but we'll see if the coaches keep him out there. And again, if the training staff cannot tell me there's no chance of injuring it further, right? He's good to go. He's 100%. Put him out there. If not, hold him out till week 18. And then you got John Williams, who the 21-day practice window has been opened up, right, with back injury. He had back surgery. He was their 7th-round pick. He was limited as well, so they still haven't activated him. I think it'll be still be another week or two before they do that, I would imagine. And then, of course, you got Malik Willis limited with the right shoulder, which we talked about on the previous video. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this injury report on the Packers side. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know. How do y'all feel about kind of what I suggested? And maybe you got a little bit better plan there. Let us know in the comments. Let's move on to the Baltimore side. And let's start with the did not participate. And this is a big one, guys. Lamar Jackson, quarterback with a back injury. He got hurt in that game the other night as we were watching everything unfold. And they said he was having trouble moving, right? Twisting. It looked like, if I remember correctly, it was like almost like a scramble up the middle and he gets tackled, or maybe he just got hit. I just remember him falling forward. And then from that point forward, he was wincing in pain on the sideline. Well, now we know it's a back injury. At the time, they were saying it might be an oblique. It might be a chest injury. We don't know what it is. It is definitely a back injury. Anybody who's ever threw their back out, you might see a back, okay, well, how bad? No, trust me. It can be the tiniest little tweak in your back, and you feel like you can't breathe, you can't move, you can't bend over, you damn sure can't run, you can't twist. There's no way you could throw a football, right? So I think Lamar's probably going to be out in this game, unless it's something specific where they can maybe shoot him up a little bit and just kind of mask the pain. I do not see him playing in this game. Now, some people see that and go, oh, that's great news for the Packers. I agree. It is great news. But Snoop Huntley, man, he's a hell of a quarterback. He's cut from the same cloth as Lamar Jackson. Now, he's never been an MVP caliber quarterback, but he's a guy who knows the system really well. He's extremely mobile, and I think he's a fairly accurate quarterback. So let me put it this way. I think Snoop Huntley, if you put Snoop Huntley on the team with the Bears as their quarterback, I think they're a much better team than Caleb Williams being their quarterback. That doesn't mean Caleb Williams is not going to be a better quarterback long term. He's starting to show signs of that. But I think Huntley does a better job of playing within the scheme, and he's more accurate than Caleb, at least from the pocket. So I think that Huntley, it's not going to be a huge drop-off from Lamar Jackson is what I'm trying to say. I do think they got one of the better quarterback rooms in the league. So Lamar Jackson being out most likely would be huge. Now, there's a chance, like I said, we could look up. I think Thursday it'll be questionable will be the call, either questionable or doubtful. But there's a chance you look up on Saturday night and he's active, right? And maybe they give it a go. And then if the pain meds wear off, you throw Snoop in there. I can see them going that route because they're playing for their season too, right? They've got to win out, and I think Pittsburgh's got to lose out, and they could win their division still, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of how that's shaking out. Let's see what we got here. Keyron in the chat says they said it's a bone bruise in his back. That's a little more serious, right, Key? That's bone bruise is a lot different than a pulled muscle. So probably a good chance he doesn't play in that game. I appreciate that info, man. Thank you so much. J. Cole says, can't underestimate Huntley. I want them to play Cooper Rush. Amen to that, man. Maybe we can get Cooper out there. So I agree, man. I watched Snoop Huntley play, and I think, he reminds me of, honestly, Malik Willis. It's like that's a quarterback. If you game plan for a pocket passing quarterback all week and you have someone like Snoop Huntley or Malik Willis coming to the game, you're kind of like, oh, crap, throw the game plan out the window. We got to change things up. The good thing from a Packers standpoint is whether it's going to be Snoop Huntley or Lamar Jackson, they both got kind of the same skill set, right? So you build the game plan the same way, as opposed to like what the Bears built the game plan to stop Jordan Love. And then all of a sudden Malik Willis comes in and they got to really change things up. You got to maybe throw a spy out there, maybe throw a touch spy, maybe throw a little contain rush, a little cage rush on Malik. And you see he still cut him up pretty good. So, yeah. Let's see here what else we got in the chat. Anything else? Tyler's asking, Love ruled out. Not yet, but it looks like he's going to play, Tyler. That's the early indicators is that he's in a clear concussion protocol, and it doesn't sound like the left shoulder is going to hold him out. So we did a segment at the front of the show. If you want to just rewind, we gave you all that info, quick breakdown of the quarterback room. All right, so let's go on to limited for the Ravens. You got, hope I'm saying this right, Chidobe Awuzie maybe, limited with the foot. That's a cornerback, right? And then you've got a couple other players that are limited in Keaton Mitchell, running back with a calf injury, and Andrew Voorhees, a guard with a foot injury. They're both limited. And then full participation is Kyle Hamilton, safety with the ankle injury, one of the best safeties in the league, and Jay Higgins, linebacker with the knee, was full participation. So I think both those guys will go. So, again, the big news here, in my opinion, is our boy Lamar Jackson. Is he going to play or not? And how much of a drop-off is it from Lamar Jackson to Snoop Huntley? So that is your full injury report, Packers, Ravens, coming up on Saturday night. And we'll keep an eye on this. I'll try to do a stream again tomorrow when Actually, we may do one this evening sometime when the other injury report drops, just to keep everybody up to date on everything, get in there and have a quick conversation. Got a lot of stuff to get done here at the house, obviously, for Christmas Eve, but we'll try to work it in if we can. But with that being said, if you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about the Packers injury report, the Ravens injury report? I want to specifically know how people feel about Evan Williams. Would you put him out there if he's not 100%? Or do you agree, let's hold him out, wait till week 18? If you lose the Ravens, it's not the end of the world, but you're trying to get your roster healthy to go into the playoffs, win week 18, go into the playoffs with a little momentum. Maybe you treat it like, hey, we better win this game right now and not wait till week 18. That could be the case too. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you know when we go live in the future. All right, let's move it along here, gang. And let's talk a little defensive players. All right. Well, if you guys tuned in yet, I think it was yesterday. We did the show yesterday. Yesterday morning, we broke down the offensive side of the ball, right? And really what we did was we kind of went into the PFF grades, okay? So we showed you the top performing offensive players on, according to PFF on the Packers roster. Today, we're going to do the same with the defensive side, and then we're going to wrap it up with a little contract talk. We'll give you kind of an idea of where everybody's contract's at and kind of set the stage for moving forward into 2026, right? So, with that being said, I want to start with this tweet from Wendell Ferreira. And you guys, if you guys tuned into this show last year, we have pretty extensive draft coverage, right? We cover it from start to finish. We build scouting reports for the players. We throw it up on our Patreon group, full scouting reports all the way from high school up till the last game they played in college. And we get experts' opinions as well and sprinkle those in. We build our own draft board. We do the whole 9 yards, right? You guys remember, if you go back and watch last year, we were saying two things. Offensive line, we need a lot of offensive line help. And I was hoping we fixed it this year, because we did. We went out and drafted a second-round pick, right, and Anthony Belton. He went and spent $27 million in signing bonus on Aaron Banks, although you can get out of that this year the full $77 million they gave him. I think everybody agrees he's been underwhelming, right? He's underperformed. So you did some things to try to bolster that offensive line, but it just didn't work. You're going to need to do it again. But the other piece that we talked about was defensive tackle. And the reason being is I did not feel like we had a dominant three tech. We always talked about Devontae Wyatt being a great pass rusher, right? I think we would consider him a great pass rusher. He's definitely a very good pass rusher. I think everybody would agree with that. But again, he's not dominant. What does dominant mean? When you think of dominant three techs, defensive tackles, and someone who can play shade as well, one tech and nose, mainly three tech, I think of someone who's top 5 or top 10 in the league. And I know everybody's thinking, well, they don't just grow on trees, Clayton. Exactly. That's why you need to keep swinging until you find one. Everybody made fun of the Dallas Cowboys for trading for Quinnen Williams. I love that trade. If the Packers could get Quinnen Williams, now you went and got Micah, so you already traded a ton of draft capital, so this is just hindsight being 2020. If the Micah Parsons trade was not on the table, if we had traded for Quinnen Williams, what the Dallas Cowboys traded for him, I would have been over the moon. I'd have been like, we got our three tech, guys. He can play nose, but he can move around that defensive line and put him in at three tech. That's what I'm talking about, a dominant three tech, right? Your Chris Joneses of the world. People have been giving Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and that Chiefs offense all the credit for winning these Super Bowls. Well, here recently, guys, it's been Chris Jones and Spags' defense in Kansas City. That's how important defensive tackle is, and specifically three tech. And again, Chris Jones can play wide 9. He can play 7. He can kick into 5. He can go 4-eye. He can go 3. He can play nose. All over the defensive line, Chris Jones can play. With that being said, we still don't have a dominant three tech. Devontae Wyatt will be back next year, right? We got the 5th-year option on him. I think he's due to make $12 million fully guaranteed. I said originally I would not give him the 5th-year option. However, we made a bet. Me and Chris did in here. Shout out to Chris the Casual M. We made a bet on whether Goody would put a 5th-year option tag on either Quay or Devontae Wyatt. I didn't think he would do both, but I said I just about guarantee he'd do one. So we had a friendly wager, right? Well, they did. They tagged Devontae Wyatt. But again, back to my original comment, I would not do that. Why? I don't think Devontae Wyatt's a dominant three tech. I don't. So if you could take that $12 million coupled with something else and go and get a 3-tech in free agency, or maybe you can, take multiple swings in the draft. Well, now we don't have a first round pick, right? Because we traded for Michael Parsons. So now the blueprint makes sense why they gave Devontae White the 5th-year option, because they see Devontae White as a 3-tech, and then they went out and got Michael Parsons. Now, people immediately, well, we got Rashawn Gary, we got LVM, we got all these other edge defenders. Rashawn Gary is not a part of the future plan here, guys. And you guys know I love Rashawn Gary. I think he has been beaten and battered over the last 3 years, and it's absolute BS. The guy always led us in sacks. He leads in run stops. He's one of the most underrated players on the team. People told me I was crazy. Lo and behold, his fellow peers in the league rated him the 80th best player in the league. So he's one of the top 100 players in the league. Again, this is voted on by the peers, by the players, not the media, the players on the field lining up across from Rashawn Gary. And people at his craft, his position, watching across the sideline going, damn, I wish I could be like that dude. With that being said, you've now got Micah Parsons. There's your dominant edge defender, right? So now you need your 3-tech. Well, you got Devontae Wyatt coming back next year, okay? You still need to go after a 3-tech. You got to. I'm sorry. You've still got to go after a 3-tech, because if you don't work out a contract extension with Devontae Wyatt, and let's say Devontae Wyatt's not willing to take anything less than $25 million per, something crazy, right? If that's the case, you better have another defensive tackle to be able to plug into 3-tech. Again, go look for Quinnen Williams in the draft. Go look for Quinnen Williams in free agency. That's money well spent. It's a position of tier 1 importance. Now, if you're going, how can you afford to do that, Clayton? You got a bunch of players we talked about on offense yesterday that you could potentially let go, right? Like Aaron Banks, you let him go, you free up $4 million in cap space. That's after the dead cap is accelerated, I should say. If you let Elton Jenkins, if you cut him, you free up $20 million in cap space. Well, the same thing kind of applies with Rashawn Gary. I think there's $11 million attached. Okay. Now, listen, I would love to see Rashawn Gary back next year for the right price. So it's probably going to be them approaching him and ask him for a restructure, ask him for a renegotiation, if you will. Yes, it's a pay cut, but you're taking a portion of the non-guaranteed money, right? And you're going to convert it to signing bonus and put money in his pocket right now, and you cut down on the cap. That's cash over cap, right? Like we talked about. That's even if you do voidable years or not, you can still play that cash over cap game that way. So with that being said, let's talk 3-tech for a second. Wendell Ferreira put this tweet out, and it came from Stat Account is what it says on X. He says, D-tackle is a big need for the Packers in the offseason. I want you to look at this chart. Now, on the bottom, running from left to right for everybody listening on the podcast, you've got quarterback pressures, okay? So it's got a quarterback pressures from left to right, right being the high number, the good side, right? On the left side, running vertically, from the lower left up to the upper left, is you've got stops, run stops. What's a stop? That's when a player makes a tackle that results in a negative play in terms of EPA, right? So running vertically on the left, you've got your run defense essentially, and running horizontally from left to right on the bottom, you got your quarterback pressure, right? How you rush the quarterback. If you'll notice where our defensive tackles are here, Kobe Wooden he's above the median line in terms of stops. Okay, so he's good against the run, which is naturally that's what you want from your nose tackle. That the general has been basically playing 1-0 tech, a little bit of shade, and just kind of playing that nose tackle position, right? Carl Brooks, who has now replaced essentially Devontae Wyatt since him being out, is in the lower left quadrant. Okay, so what we've got here is he's below average in pressures, and he's below average in stops. Now, listen, he just got back from injury. I got you. He has played significant snaps this year, but there's neither of these guys are the defensive tackle of the future. Now, when Devontae Wyatt's healthy, he's the 3-tech. We know that. However, I feel comfortable with Kobe Wooden playing nose. He's been good good with stops. You're not paying him to get after the quarterback. Most of the time, as we've seen with Kenny Clark last year, they're just playing the touch spy in Jeff Hafley's defense, which is essentially line up in the A-gap, put your hands on both the guard and the center, i.e. the touch, and then you're just kind of mirroring the quarterback and also watching for the draw play, things like that. You don't need to spend a bunch of money to get a player to do that. That's why they traded away Kenny Clark, because it's like we're wasting money here. We can get just about anybody to do that and hold the point of attack if we find someone who's just good against the run, right? So now the question is, do you have the 3-tech of the future? Many people think we do in Devontae Wyatt. I'm not sold. I'm glad he's on the roster, and that's a good place. It's kind of like with Sean Ryan. If you re-sign Sean Ryan back, and you build him, you kind of got a high floor. Devontae Wyatt as our 3 tech, I feel good about. I don't feel great, but I feel good about. What if you go out and you find a Quinnen Williams in the draft? Or you go find a player like that and you overpay for great, not overpay for good in free agency, and get you a solid 3 tech to rotate with Devontae Wyatt and to work into when you get in those pass situations. If you're not playing the Joker 1 look, you put both of those guys in a 3 tech, and then you've got 2 wide 9s to rush the quarterback, cage rush, stunt in the middle, whatever you want to do. You create options for yourself. But again, 3 tech and edge are positions of tier 1 importance, in my opinion. So it's important to go and get. If Devontae Wyatt gets hurt again next year, we're right back in the same spot. Now, listen, I don't think that this is a bigger need than offensive line. Offensive line, in my opinion, is the top need that this Packers team has. Many people will say corner. I don't see it that way, because if the corners will just play their freaking assignment, you could see that you don't need a superstar to go out there and do what Jeff Hafley's asking these corners to do. You just need a cornerback who, when we call quarters match, plays it top down. When we call a banjo man coverage, around the goal line, he doesn't bite up on anything underneath. He makes damn sure that whoever releases on his side in banjo coverage, he's going to keep them from making an easy, wide open catch, right? You can't do that with a 3 tech. There's nothing Jeff Hafley can do with a 3 tech to go, I'm going to scheme this to make it easy on that 3 tech. No, a 3 tech has got to be a dog. A 3 tech has got to have superhuman strength and quick twitch, first step burst to be able to be better than the players in front of him, period, case closed. Cornerback and Jeff Hafley's defense is totally different. So that's my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. That I feel very strongly about that. You can probably hear it in my voice. So, I hate to throw single players under the bus. And you guys know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say the name because I just feel like it's disrespectful. Get a player that's going to play the coverage. That might be Kamal Hatton. That may be him. Hell, it may be Nate Hobbs. We didn't see Nate Hobbs doing that early on in the season. He wasn't just completely forgetting his assignment. I'm going to go do what I want to do here. That was the problem with Jair. Jair done it multiple times last year, and he got cooked both times. I remember A.J. Brown week 1 cooked his ass, and it was because we had man coverage, and he ran an out and an up, or it was either an out and up or a sluggo, and Ja was like, the heck with what the defensive call is. I'm just going to go jump this route, and that's how you get in trouble. It happened against the Chargers, or not the Chargers. It happened against the Broncos 2 weeks ago. It happened against the Bears this week. I'd sit their ass down. That's me. I wouldn't do this in front of the team, but I would pull that player in. I'd sit down across them and go, hey man, what am I doing wrong here? As a coach, this is what I would say. What am I doing wrong here? Well, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. Okay. Why are you biting on these? Well, I'm just trying to make a play. That's great. We want you to make plays. But don't you think it's more important to do exactly what the defensive call says? I'm not going to eat your lunch because you got beat in close coverage and you're in a guy's hip pocket over the top. When I look up and go, they just beat us on the scheme call. I'm not going to eat your lunch over that. I am going to eat your lunch when I tell you play it top down, do not get beat over the top. Make sure you don't give them an easy completion in the back of the end zone to tie the freaking ball game or whatever the scenario is, right? I am going to eat your lunch when you go, I know I'm supposed to play top down, but I'm just going to bite down and do whatever the heck I want to do. Imagine if every player on the field, both on offense and defense, played their assignment that way. Imagine how bad the Packers would get beat every week. Imagine if Jordan Love went out there and said, okay, I know the read is the 1 on the front side to the 2 on the back side and then catch the crosser over the middle on the 3 read, right? But you know what? Heck with that. The 4 read, here's a go route. I feel like throwing a go ball. I'm just going to throw a go ball here and throw it into double coverage and throw a pick. Imagine how the game plan would unfold. First of all, Matt LaFleur would sit his ass. We know that, right? So, with all that being said, same thing with the running back. Imagine it's an A-gap left run and the hole's wide open, but Josh Jacobs decides, you know what? I know that gets the ball. I know we got leverage here, but I want to do something flashy. I'm going to bounce it C-gap right.